Good morning. Welcome to Walking Slowly Downhill, readings of an account of a walk that I undertook in 2015 from the source of the Murray River just underneath Mount Kosciuszko to its mouth at Goolwa in South Australia. These accounts were gathered together under the title Walking Slowly Downhill, and I'm reading from the 28th day, renmark Mail Route Road to River Road. Yesterday I received the hat my sister sent me through the mail, so now I can walk with my head protected from the sun. I've never worn a hat in my life, I repeatedly tell her in my responses to the texts she sends urging me to cover my head, but she sent me a hat, so I decide to wear it. I love my sister. Our lives' paths forked in our late teenage years and then kept heading in divergent directions until as adults we almost lost touch. Since late last year when I moved to Dramana, we have gradually eased into each other. Today as I walk with a hat on my head, I miss her. I stopped nowhere in particular on the red track and I sent her a photo of me wearing it. I remarked that today is the first day of my life I've worn a hat, and it will most probably rain. And it does. At first, random drops so tiny I can't really tell if they've actually landed on me. Then the rain becomes more insistent, and then it pours. The vast sky around me is a livid violet, extending all across its reach. Sweeping rain bands haze and blur the edges of massed banks of clouds to the north. No one passes. On the flat red earth, I don't see any animals except dead ones. Above me sweeps a flock of parrots. A single crow keeps watch. In front of me, there's simply the red clay track and the flatness reaching out to the horizon on both sides of it. As I walk, I count 49 days extending out from the 26th of August, the day of my mother's passing. The 49th will fall on the 15th of October. That's 5 days away. Consequently, that day will mark the final day of my mother's permanence in the Bardo. The Tibetan Book of the Dead explains that after death, each consciousness journeys 49 days through its own evaluation process. This afterlife journey is called the Bardo. At the end of this journey, the book claims each consciousness is then ready to move forward into the next incarnation. The 15th of October also marks my eldest daughter's 44th birthday. As my daughter moves into the first day of her 45th year, my mother's consciousness will simultaneously enter unimagined and unimaginable spaces. I'm trying to understand this. A mother's afterlife journey ends in order to begin a new life. On the very same day, a daughter's earthly life will have reached its midpoint. Birds shriek overhead, rummaging through the leaden skies of our very, very strange world. The wind suddenly picks up. I walk on through it in trust. The 29th day along the river road for 16 kilometers. As I read through the texts I've written since September 13, I realize how badly they need editing. But there is no time or space for that, and the feel of the walk is always in the present, even if the syntax of its accounts needs attention. For the last 3 days, Ron has driven me out to the start of the walk. He grew up in Liverpool and migrated here as a young man. Last night, he and his wife, Samantha, cracked open some pecans. This morning, he brought me a bag of ready-to-eat kernels for the walk. On Wednesday, he travels to Tibet for the first time. He intends to journey around the country's monasteries for 10 days or so. Ron is 71 years old. He's curious about everything. He's kind, open, and generous. He's been living in Mildura for 18 years and loves the town and its people more than ever. He checks on me halfway through the walk and then continues on in his car, exploring the tracks around the Murray. Some hours later, I turn a bend and see him waiting for me in his car at the end of the 16-kilometre walk along River Road, approximately halfway between Mildura and Renmark. As we chat on the way back, he suddenly says, "Look at those clouds. It's like the sky has been learning how to paint watercolours. And it's now saying, look what I can do." I'm struck by his words. I'm struck by his simple joy. I look at the clouds and I can see what he means. I had looked at them before as I walked along the track and sang all or nothing at all. I had simply thought cirrus, nimbus, cumulus, stratus. But Ron has communed with the sky and gifted me with his response, and gifted me with its response. I sit in silence to savor the moment. He does too. The salt bushes flash by, while in the next few days I will journey along the river. Ron will be walking through Larsa's stone boulevards. He will climb up the city's stone staircases and through the doorways of its stone monasteries. Outside, high above their steeples and pediments, Tibetan clouds will float by, reconfiguring themselves into newness once more, into endless watercolours. Someone somewhere underneath them will look up, and then that someone will notice. I'm struck always by the inadequacy of the words I utter as I read out these accounts, compared in part to the impressions that I hold as memories of the walk. The words are so inadequate, but it's all I have to give you as accounts of what I experienced. And then there's always something that arises beyond the words, beyond the accounts. It's something to do with my intention, something to do with my hope for what this constitutes, this exchange between us, even though I can't see your side of it. That energy is alive through this time. Until tomorrow, I wish you a lovely afternoon.